is Mogi Beth. For those of y'all who are new here, I am a full-time reseller, primarily on the Poshmark app, which just means I get to sell clothes for a living, which is just an awesome job. But for those of y'all who have watched other videos of mine, thank you so much for being here. If you haven't already, could you please do me a favor and click subscribe? Because YouTube's telling me that the majority of y'all haven't subscribed to my channel, the ones that are watching, so it would really mean a lot to me. But today, we have a topic that has been highly requested. I've been kind of talking about it for a while, and that is anthropology, and particularly what brands, categories, and styles of anthropology that I am picking up to resell on Poshmark. So I have had a long history and love affair with anthropology. It really started like when I was 12 years old and first became aware that anthropology existed. And ever since I was like maybe 15 and I got my driver's license, because I grew up in Kansas where you get your driver's license a little bit earlier, I would drive up to Kansas City because we didn't have anthropology where I was for my birthday by myself. And I would take myself and spend hours in anthropology. And I mean, the employees probably didn't like it, but I would try on all this stuff and I would just feel and like just smell all the beautiful smells and absorb all the beauty that was anthropology. I was completely obsessed. I wouldn't even buy that much, maybe one or two things, but I just loved it. And then maybe I'd go to like the Cheesecake Factory or something, and that was my ideal day. And so I have just been obsessed with anthropology forever and really have become familiar with, you know, their brands over time because of it. And so when I started reselling on Poshmark a little over 3 years ago, the hottest brands to sell were anthropology brands. And so lots of my very first sales were anthropology. And when I would go thrifting to resell in the beginning, whenever I found anthropology, I would literally do a little happy dance in the store and it would go in my cart immediately. But that was 3 years ago. Things have changed so much since then. It went from me picking up 95% of the anthropology items that I found to me leaving behind 95% of the anthropology items that I find. And so now the question is, what anthropology still sells well? And I do want to preface this by saying there are certain people who have amazing business models selling older styles of anthropology. They sell vintage anthropology, they're experts in the field, and they kill it. So, you know, I'm definitely not addressing, if you want to go in that lane, that is definitely a viable option. There's also people who have really created a business model around selling anthropology pieces for around $25. And I think that's very viable as well. You do have to push out a lot of volume at a lower price point, but you know, if you're shopping at the bins or whatever, definitely viable as well. What I'm talking about is what I pick up, which is items that sell for a higher average sales price, you know, around $35 or up quickly, that have a fast sell-through rate. So those are the items I'm really looking for. Those are the styles, categories, and brands that I like to hone in on, and I just want to share with y'all my framework for what I pick up from anthropology to resell in my business, in the hopes that you can create a framework that works for you as well. So at the end of the video, I'm actually going to take y'all into Goodwill with me. Last night I went into a Goodwill and I put in my cart every single anthropology piece that I found, and then I went over with y'all what I found. I checked a lot of comps on my phone, which I'll show y'all, and then I also showed you what I took with me and what I left behind. And spoiler alert, left most of it behind, but I think it's still a good just kind of preview into what, you know, what I'm going to tell you looks like in live action. So if you want to skip ahead to that piece, I will definitely put a timestamp down below. But for now, I want to talk about the categories, the styles, and the brands that sell well from anthropology. And so the first one, I think the most critical piece, are the categories within anthropology that sell well. And when I say categories, what I really mean is when you're shopping on Poshmark, on the side, there are different filters. One is categories. So, you know, you have tops, pants, jeans, etc. The 4 categories within that I think do really well for Poshmark are outerwear, so jackets and coats, dresses, sweaters, and swimwear. Those are the 4 that I really focus on within anthropology. And then the categories that don't do so well are, first and foremost, and we'll talk about this, tops, then skirts, pants, shorts, jeans even, a lot of bottoms, as you can tell. Those are the ones I just generally don't look for Anthropologie within those categories, and when I do find, I generally leave them behind. Of course, there are exceptions to the rule. Within all of these rules, there are many exceptions, but these are rules of thumb that I like to really use to guide my thrifting and sourcing process. Okay, I want to talk about some of these categories just a little bit. With Anthropologie jeans, so Anthropologie has a lot of brands that they sell, like a Goldie, Mother, Adriana Goldschmied, that actually do sell really well on Poshmark. However, if I find these brands of jeans, I don't mark them under Anthropologie, I mark them under their respective brand. So I mark Mother under Mother. Even if I do find them retail arbitrage through Anthropologie, I'll still mark those under their brand because people know and are looking for those brands. However, when it comes to Anthropologie in-house brands, what I'm really thinking about with the jeans at Anthropologie is Pilcrow and the letterpress, which has seen a massive decline in resale value over the past 3 years. I used to pick it up a lot. However, now I think it's been a year since I picked up a Pilcrow and the letterpress jean. However, I do like to pick up their jean jackets, denim jackets, and their jumpsuits and overalls, etc. But Pilcrow and the letterpress is just a really crowded category because a lot of people find them in their thrift stores. So there's just tons of them on Poshmark, and the resale value has really gone down. The only exception maybe where I would pick up Pilcrow and letterpress is if they were like new condition or new at tag, and they were a really trendy style. So maybe like a wide leg, high rise, jean that came out in 2019. That might be an instance in which I pick it up, but generally this is a brand I leave behind. Oh, and they used to sell level 99 denim. Dead to me. I don't pick up any level 99 anymore. Okay, so with Anthropologie tops, I have strong opinions about tops to begin with, but with Anthropologie tops, it's especially hard. And of course, there are exceptions to the rule, but generally, Anthropologie tops is just a really crowded category on Poshmark once again. And so in order for me to feel comfortable picking up a top from an Anthropologie brand, it has to be something that's really special. Typically Maeve will sometimes be an exception to the rule, very specific styles within Maeve, but brands like Diletta, Akemi Kin, Dolan, Meadow Rue, Cloth and Stone, almost all these brands that I used to love finding and picking up, I leave behind 99.9% of the time now in the tops category, just because it is so saturated on these reseller platforms. So unless you're willing to, sit on them for a while and hopefully sell them eventually for 20 bucks, it does happen, but I really steer clear from those brands and those tops, and just tops from Anthropologie in general. Of course, if you love the tops category, there are a few brands within Anthropologie that can do well, and we'll talk about that a little later. Okay, but the category that I really love and want to talk about is the Anthropologie outerwear category. This category, if you think about it from the consumer's perspective, if a consumer is looking for a well-constructed, uniquely designed coat, they don't have a lot of options, but Anthropologie for years has been making beautifully designed, tailored coats that are unique and somewhat timeless in their design. And so a lot of their designs have stood the test of time and still are trendy today. Even with brands like Tabitha, Cartonier, 11Zs, these are brands that maybe in other categories I would pass, but in the coats category, I would definitely look up comps, especially if it does seem to be a more trendy, beautiful, timeless style, because Anthropologie just really does excel in this particular category. When I'm saying trendy, timeless styles, I'm thinking of unique styles as well. So longer coats, typically, ones with Sherpa, ones with plaid, ones with faux fur, ones that really, you couldn't necessarily find elsewhere for, the price point at which they retailed and eventually resell for. I think a lot of the styles Anthropologie has put out just have really maintained their resale value. And if you go within the Poshmark app and filter by $100 to $250 and then sort by just in, a lot of what you'll see are coats. And it's a really easy category to just study and to become familiar with what people are willing to pay up for. So if you are willing to do, 5-10 minutes of research within this category, I think it'll be worth your while. Okay, I don't want to go over every category, but now I want to talk about the different styles that Anthropologie has put out over the years that I still pick up. So Anthropologie has been a brand that has curated a very bohemian, romantic, vintage inspired, Parisian flea market type of vibe, aesthetic, and they've done such a good job at it. Back in the day, they really translated this by putting a lot of unique details into their clothes. So they would put a lot of ribbon, lace insets, unique buttons, little flower corsages, little things like that. But those things aren't really on trend anymore unless you are targeting, again, a vintage Anthropologie buyer. What's really more on trend is how Anthropologie has translated the same vibe and aesthetic into more, big billowy ruffles or voluminous oversized pieces or really beautifully embroidered pieces, big bold prints, contrasting prints, dramatic florals, things like that, puff sleeves, high necks, things like that I've talked about in the past that really do translate in today's trends and also have that same romantic bohemian vibe. So those are really the styles that I like to look for. Anthropologie has done a good job at translating that into everyday wear for a more normal person over the years, especially in the different designers that they've picked up. And you can see that reflected in other designers as well, where it's like Ulla Johnson, Doan, maybe a Natalie Martin, these higher tier, mid-tier luxury designers that a lot of people love and aspire to dress like, but then the Anthropologie, price point is more accessible to them. So understanding basically the different trends that are happening within the fashion world, especially as it relates to bohemian trends and bohemian aesthetic, I think it's really important when deciding what Anthropologie pieces to pick up. Okay, so let's get into brands. We're gonna get into the little nitty gritty of what brands do well within Anthropologie. It used to be that I had a list of Anthropologie brands on my phone, and they were largely in-house brands that had the RN number 66170. That's how you could really identify an Anthropologie piece. There were so many in-house brands, but if you are an Anthropologie customer, you have probably noticed over the past couple years, 2 or 3 years, they have started moving away from that and have instead developed a different strategy. And by the way, this is all by speculation. I don't have any kind of insider knowledge. I could be completely wrong, but if you go on their website today, or you go in their store today, what you're going to find is a lot of Anthropologie tags. It just says Anthropologie on the tag. This is something that they didn't used to do. They did it in the very, very beginning when they first launched. Then they dropped that completely. They just started implementing that recently. So it just says Anthropologie on the tag. And then their other in-house brands, they say Moth, Maeve, etc. by Anthropologie, for Anthropologie, and they're basically putting the Anthropologie brand within their in-house brands. But a lot of their other in-house brands, they've just completely dropped. If you go on their website and you look through their brands, which is something that I definitely recommend, and you look at the old in-house brands that used to be popular, for instance, a Kimmy and Ken or Sleeping on Snow, Moth, a lot of their in-house brands that they used to have a ton of items under, they have either dropped completely, like you can't find on there, or there's just not a lot under there anymore. And I think they're really shifting from a company that used to have tons of in-house brands to one that really has only a few in-house brands but has a ton of different designers that they pick up and source from around the world. And Anthropologie historically has been really good at doing this, finding small designers from around the world that aren't really well known in America or more obscure, picking them up and really launching their brand. one brand that really comes to mind with this is Farm Rio. Farm Rio is a brand that I really discovered through Anthropologie. They are a Brazilian brand that has, you know, absolutely amazing designs. There's a lot of contrasting print, a lot of really cool like animal prints and floral prints that they kind of mesh together. And I really learned about them through Anthropologie, but now they've exploded and they're on all different types of retailers. Another brand like this that still maintains its resale value really well is Hamant and Nandita, which I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry for my ignorance in how to pronounce these names. You'll just have to bear with me, and maybe you can tell me how to correct it in the comments down below. But that's an Indian brand that makes absolutely gorgeous designs that I really learned about through Anthropologie. I think a lot of people did, but have since really been featured in a lot of retailers, including Shopbop, Revolve, etc. So this I think is really the strategy that Anthropologie is going after, and one in which really translates well into the reseller market. These smaller, more obscure brands that not a lot of people know about that they can find through Anthropologie that are absolutely gorgeous, and then they're also looking for on the reseller market. And so these are brands that I will tag under Anthropologie if the specific style that I found was carried in Anthropologie. Maybe not Farm Rio. Farm Rio is one that's actually kind of gaining more brand awareness, so I might actually tag it under Farm Rio. But the following brands are ones that I think not very many consumers know, but are looking for under the Anthropologie brand. So we've got Cashel, which is an Australian brand that Anthropologie has in their stores that is actually gorgeous. They have really bold, beautiful floral prints. There's Siddhartha Bansal, which is an Indian designer that plays a lot with color. That's really cool. And y'all, Anthropologie has a lot of Indian designers and brands that I want to go over real quick. Another one is Vineet Ball, and just another really fabulous Indian designer. Banuni by Jyoti is another one that's all of these have really good resale value, and this one does as well. A really good one to know. And then there's Dhruv Kapoor. I love these designs, and that has a really good resale value. And then there are some other brands from around the world that do really well at Anthropologie. One is a Spanish brand called Pepa Loves, and they've had some very particular pieces within Anthropologie that have done really well, sold out really quickly, and have a really high resale value. Not all their pieces were sold at Anthropologie, same with all of these designers, but there's a good possibility that it was. So if you find these brands within the thrift store, I think definitely look it up. And these are brands that, again, I would tag under Anthropologie. Another one is either Blink or Blank. It's an English brand that has been with Anthropologie for a really long time, and they have some really beautiful, intricate, embroidered bohemian styles. Since they've been with Anthropologie a long time, some of their styles do better than others, but some of their pieces have a really high resale value, so it's definitely one to know. And then some other brands or designers that Anthropologie has picked up and sourced for a long time that do well, that you know, I might actually tag under Anthropologie depending the piece, is Byron Lars, Shoshana, Corovilis, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, and then ML Monique Louillier. Those are, you know, some really more higher end designers that Anthropologie has carried and continues to carry that I honestly might tag under Anthropologie if they were carried there, just because I think it would reach a wider audience by tagging it through Anthropologie. But just brands to really know, and so that if you are out in the thrift store, you know to pick them up and get them listed. The other brands that I think have been carried by Anthropologie, but then sometimes also are carried by places like Nordstrom Rack, so you have to be a little bit picky, but do sometimes have a really, really high resale value, is Love Sam, Rana Gill. Even a brand like Donna Morgan is sometimes carried by Anthropologie, and some of the items that are carried by them just have a really high resale value. So there are so many brands, y'all, that Anthropologie has picked up and sourced from around the world over the years that do have a high resale value. And I think going through the Anthropologie brands list, just picking a letter and spending 3 minutes just going through their different brands and familiarizing yourself with some smaller designers that do have a high resale value is good. Also going on Poshmark, sorting, a higher price point, whether it's 50 to 100 or 100 to 250, and just looking through and seeing what styles sell well. Doing that regularly, if you want to pick up Anthropologie brands and certain styles, I think is a really, really good idea and definitely worth your time. Some in-house brands that I will gravitate towards when found at the thrift store are anything that says by Anthropologie or just the Anthropologie tag, like I said earlier, because that indicates to me that it's a more recent style. And I've shown that before, but I'll show that here again. That's not a guarantee by any means, but that means I'm more likely to check comps in the thrift store and put it in my cart, and then see if it's something that consumers are willing to pay up a little bit more for, since it is a more recent style. And then also another line is 52 Conversations by Anthropologie. I wanted to mention this because they do a lot more novelty prints that are really popular on the reseller market, and this is a line that kind of launched recently, maybe a few years ago, and so something that's a little bit more rare and something that buyers are still pretty much looking for and isn't in high supply yet, but still has high demand. And then also the Maeve brand within Anthropologie. I think Maeve is a brand that kind of does the more trendier pieces, the more stylized pieces. And so that is a brand that if I find something that's Maeve that looks like it's in excellent condition and is on trend, I will put in my cart and then check comps as well. Typically the older Maeve tag, which I'll pop up a picture of, I don't even bother with anymore generally, but the newer one, especially if it says Maeve by Anthropologie, that's something that I definitely do pay attention to in the thrift store and might spend a little bit more time on. Speaking of the thrift store, here is an abrupt transition into me thrifting in a Goodwill. I went to a Goodwill to find everything and anything I could find that was Anthropologie brand, just so I could show y'all what I do end up picking up and what I leave behind. I think, when you hear people say that they're being picky, it's kind of hard to know what that actually means. I wanted to show y'all what I meant when it comes to I am very picky when it comes to Anthropologie. Some brands that I come across a lot in the Goodwill thrift store that I didn't find this time are Bordeaux, C. Kier. Sometimes I find Charlie and Robin, Corey Lynn Coulter, Daughters of the Liberation, Deletta, Edme and Esilt, Elevensies, Etoile, Faye, Florite, Girls from Savoy, Guinevere, HD in Paris, Hi, Holding Horses, Isabel Sinclair, which I just picked up recently, Knitted and Knotted, Leaf Notes, Lily's Closet, Lil, Lilka, Little Yellow Button, Meadow Rue, Moth, Moulinette Soars, Odile, 1 September, sometimes I find Porridge, Rick Rack, Sunday in Brooklyn, and Yellowbird. I also wanted to show y'all some tags that are often mistaken for Anthropologie. So this is Silence and Noise from Urban Outfitters, BDG from Urban Outfitters, Pins and Needles from Urban Outfitters, Ecote from Urban Outfitters, Skies Are Blue. This is actually a ModCloth tag, Fervor. This is the one, Staring at Stars, that is mistaken for Anthro so often. But alright y'all, this was my cart of all the Anthro stuff. Let's get into it. The first piece is the Sparrow knit maxi skirt. That's what the tag looks like. And then y'all, I'm going to pull up my phone and show you how I look at comps. And also how I find stock photos, because I do get a lot of questions about that, and how I find the style names, etc. So I started by typing Sparrow Stripe Skirt, and then I added Anthropologie. I think it's always a good idea to make sure to add Anthropologie to that Google search. Then I found some listings actually on Google. That one was for $18 at eBay. I found a $15 one on Poshmark. And just it became suddenly very clear to me that this wasn't a high demand piece and one that was pretty saturated, so I did not get it. This is a brand by Anthropologie that says HWR on it, but it's actually called Monogram. It's an older brand by Anthropologie. I didn't even look up comps on that because it's not a brand that I pick up, but If you're interested in doing vintage anthropology, it's a good one to know. This is a Tabitha eyelet coat. And I wanted to look this one up because, like I said earlier in the video, this is a brand that often does have a pretty good resale value when it comes to coats and jackets. So I just typed in Anthropologie, Tabitha, red eyelet jacket. And often when I type it into Google, I will select all and copy just in case I don't find it on Google and I need to look at Pinterest or on Poshmark. I didn't have to use Pinterest this time around, but that is a tool that I use often when it comes to searching for style names. But I actually found the style name, as you can see right away. It's the Tabitha Constructed swing jacket. And when I opened it, it looked like the comps that are for sale actually have a pretty good average asking price. But then when looking at the solds, there are ones for 20, 30, 45. So it's a little bit under what's being asked for it right now. And there aren't a lot of solds in general. So it's not very clear what demand is, since the most recent sold is $20. That's not a good sign, but also this one that's $40 has been up for a very long time, as I could see through all those host picks, so I decided to pass. And it's not a style that I think is especially on trend. This is Postmark. That is the brand that has that little postage stamp. And so I was looking at this piece. This piece I was kind of actually really interested in because it was in great condition, super soft. So when I went to search it on my phone, I was thinking, okay, what keywords do I need to use? This is sometimes called a space dye knit. I looked up it as a Anthropologie Postmark marled cowl sweater, I believe. And I was able to find it using those keywords. Another keyword I could have used is ruffle sleeve, just because it does have the ruffle on the sleeve. But after entering in those keywords to Google and searching, I go straight to images just so I can identify it by the photo. And right away, I saw it in a different colorway called the Postmark Lassen cowl neck sweater. So I just went over to Poshmark and entered in that style name so that I could see comps under the same style name. And immediately the same colorway popped up, so I wanted to filter by all sizes just so I could get an accurate depiction of what comps are looking like over different colors and different sizes, etc. That was a new with tag listing for $49, which didn't give me a lot of hope, but I didn't see very many, if at all, in this colorway, which is both a good and bad thing. It's a good thing because, it's not very available, but it's a bad thing because it doesn't give me a lot of data, so I kind of just had to make a judgment call here. I could have gone either way, but ultimately I decided to not pick up that piece. Okay, the next piece is by a brand that I recently picked up if you watched my last haul, Angel of the North, and this is, again, the newer tag. And I really do like this brand of sweaters for Anthropologie. Sweaters, again, is a category that I like selling in Anthropologie, similarly to coats. I think when people are thinking of well-constructed, uniquely designed sweaters, Anthropologie still really does come to mind for a lot of customers, including me. I really like Anthropologie sweaters. So, but this individual piece was not in good enough condition for me to pick up. It just had been washed too many times, and the hanger had created holes in the shoulders. But I did want to show y'all what looking comps up on this sweater look like, just so that you could see that whole process once again. I just searched Anthropologie Angel of the North pink cardigan, and it actually came up pretty quickly. It was called the Mogi cardigan, so I just went over to Poshmark once again and looked that up. Okay, I just want to say something. When y'all see me in the thrift store, sometimes you DM me on Instagram and you say that I look really intense, and now I totally get it, because it looks like I'm literally trying to hack into the nuclear codes or something instead of looking up this Angel of the North cardigan. So if you do see me in the thrift store and I look super intense, it just means I'm in the zone. But definitely still come up to me if you want to. I'd love to say hi. So available comps actually looked really good. They were all around, the $40 range, which is a good sign to me.
So I wanted to look at solds. The very first sold was a $75 sale, which was probably, in my estimation, a bundle sale, because if there is one sold comp that's just abnormally high, I typically assume that it was a bundle sale, because when you sell something in a bundle, the sold listing will have the listing price. It won't account for the bundle discount. The other solds were okay. They were a little all over the place. There were some for $40, there were some for $20. So if it was in excellent condition, that would have just had to be a judgment call. But I didn't pick it up because of condition once again. Y'all, oh my gosh. This was my first time finding Farm Rio in the thrift store. I was so excited when I found it. I didn't even look up comps on this dress. I was just like, Farm Rio, yes please, going in my cart. But I don't actually think, now that I've looked up this dress, I cannot find the style name anywhere. I don't think it actually was sold at Anthropologie, but it still should do well. I'm going to have to probably model it for the cover photo, but I still think it's an absolutely gorgeous dress, and I was really happy to find it. This is Pure and Good, a in-house brand with Anthropologie that makes really nice basics but has a lower price point compared to other Anthropologie items, and so I never pick it up anymore. And this is a Leaf Notes, tank blouse. It was probably silk, and it was a really cute print, but I don't pick up, again, Leaf Notes really much anymore. I didn't even look up comps. If I were to guess, it probably sells for around $20, $25 at most. This was a brand, an in-house Anthropologie brand that used to sell really well, Vanessa and Virginia, but it has since fallen off, and I don't pick it up really much anymore. So again, I did not check comps on this one either. I guess I really wanted to show y'all what the tag looks like. It's a cool tag. I actually really like it. I used to get so excited after finding this brand. It's just funny how things change so quickly. And I thought it was a cute blouse, but again, I don't sell Anthropologie blouses very often, and I did not even look up this one. Okay, and then again, earlier when I was talking about jeans, this was a pair of Pilcrow and the letterpress jeans that I found, and these were especially ones I would not buy because they are denim trousers, which generally I find to do poorly in almost any brand. So I definitely did not look those up or even consider them. So this is a brand that is often sold at Anthropologie called Graylin, but this piece was missing the waist tie, and also there was nothing unique about this piece, and when it comes to Anthropologie, I need some kind of wow factor, some kind of unique detail. This dress is by Tracy Reese, which is often sold at Anthropologie, but this is a newer piece, I can tell, because it says Anthropologie on the tag once again. So I was definitely interested in this piece, especially since it's an extra large, which does well. And I also loved it because it's got this emerald green color over the tan underlay. I love jewel tones over tan or beige color. I think that's a really good combination. So I wanted to look this one up. So one benefit to mainly sourcing newer styles is that you can find the stock photos typically a lot easier just because they have been online more recently. So you can also just use more general keywords when looking for the stock photo. So I'm just looking for Tracy Reese knit green dress. Scrolling through, I wasn't able to find it this way, so I went back eventually and just got rid of the knit. And sometimes I do that if I just want to simplify my search. Sometimes adding too many keywords can actually not be beneficial when looking for an item, just because you don't know what they classified it as. And so I eventually did find it. I scrolled down a little bit more, and on the left there, you're going to be able to see that it is the Lino swing dress, which I really do like that stock photo as well. So I just went back over to Poshmark and looked for that style name. And eventually I did sort by all sizes and figured out that there were 2 available. I ended up picking up this dress. There were no sold comps available, but with newer styles, that can often be the case. So if it's a new style that I think, has the potential to do well, but it doesn't have a ton of data, I still will typically take a chance on it. However, when I picked this one up and I got it home, I realized there was a big hole in it, so I am going to return it. It was a Saturday Sunday dress, which is another brand that used to do really well, but really no longer does well in my experience. So, and this was definitely way too worn for me to be able to pick it up, but I did want to show y'all that tag as well. Very rarely do I pick up that brand anymore. Sleeping on Snow, on the other hand, is this piece, and sometimes I will pick up Sleeping on Snow for sure. They still recently have made really cute styles within this sweater and knitwear brand, and again, I do like selling sweaters by Anthropologie. With this piece, I would just want to walk you through my thought process a little bit, just what I'm thinking while looking this up. So Sleeping on Snow, cowl, sweater, dress, looking back at it to remember what it looks like. Okay, there it is, but this doesn't have the style name. Scroll down a little further and I see Meli, M-E-L-I, which is what I'm going to use to look it up on Poshmark. So just typing that in here, and only one listing comes up because I have my size filter, and this is an extra small, so that I go look back, what size is mine? It's also an extra small, which isn't good because I would be competing with a $36 listing, which is not great, but I want to look at other sizes, and it appears that other sizes are actually priced a lot better at $60 and $85. So if that $36 one sold, I would potentially be able to comfortably list a little bit higher. But looking at solds, woof, $20 it's often going for these days, and $30. I scroll down a little further and it gets a little better around $40, $50, $60, but that was probably what it went for a year or two ago, and it just no longer does. It's lost its resale value, and that happens. Michael Stars, no. I learned that the hard way. It's often sold at Anthropologie, but it does not have a high resale value. All right, well, that is all I found of Anthropologie at this thrift store. We made it through. Woohoo!
All right, y'all, so that is the video. I hope this helped further your knowledge in Anthropologie in some way. If there was a brand or a style or a category that I failed to mention that you love picking up in the thrift store, let me know in the comments down below, because the comment section is honestly such a resource here on YouTube, and I just am so excited that y'all are willing to spend your time interacting with one another and really creating such a valuable resource here in the comment section of the video. So yeah, let me know, and if you haven't already, please like and subscribe. It really does mean a lot. But thank y'all for being here. I hope it was helpful, and I hope you have a fabulous day. All right, I'll see you in the next one. Bye.